Hi everyone, welcome to the McDonogh Institute of Archaeological Research and the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology at the University of Cambridge. Today we are here to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Archaeological Review from Cambridge. The ARC is a student-led journal managed by postgraduate researchers at the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology that was founded in 1981, 40 years ago, to bridge the broader formal academic research in the field and more informal discussions and debates within the community here at the Department of Archaeology. The journal has been publishing thematic issues on broader themes topical to archaeology and has now reached its 17th publication. And now, let us take you back through the 40 years of history of the ARC.
One of the reasons I decided got involved with ARC was because there was at the time, quite a strong connection between the classics department, or those of us doing archaeology in the classics department, and archaeologists obviously in the archaeology department. So a number of my friends were involved in ARC, and I proposed the topic of archaeology and texts because of my own research interests. And I remember it being an exciting time. It was, I think, the first time I'd ever interacted formally with academics, some of them quite senior in other countries and in other disciplines, to try and bring other areas of interest, to try and bring a broader perspective than my own, which was relatively narrow, focused on the Aegean. But I hope that the issue that we produced back then has had some impact on the field, and more than just in my own field of Aegean archaeology.
That's great. So there were a group of us who kind of came together, and I remember us having a conversation in the common room around this and deciding this is what we were going to do. And I ended up editing it. And it was great, it was really, really good because it was new thinking. It was really new thinking.
It was back early 90s, and so it was so different. It was quite difficult because the technology that we have now. I remember, a big challenge as well. In the computer room, it was all Apples, which I wasn't familiar with at all. So you're kind of learning. We were just all the time learning a lot of technology then, because email's quite a new thing too. But you learned a lot from doing all that.
I remember it was a lot of fun, but also simultaneously really hectic and frantic. And I think we were all just living on adrenaline. I remember the committee was wonderful. We had a really sort of close-knit relationship with the whole process, but it was very much, there's a lot of running around and dealing with printers and dealing with contributors and keeping people happy. But everybody was in really good spirits, and it was just, it was fun but hectic. I suppose hectic is the word I'd use. But I think that was par course for doing a PhD anyway, so it was sort of felt like part of a lifestyle very much.
Since academics publish, being involved at the beginning of one's career in the mechanics, if you like, of assembling, of pulling together papers around a theme for a journal is an extremely valuable skill, and is something that in many cases people don't learn until quite, not late on, but they learn much later on in their career. So having the opportunity to do that as a research student or an early career researcher is very, very valuable. But it's also valuable because getting that kind of input into one's own research at that level is very helpful, because there's nothing, the input that you get doesn't have an academic evaluative impact, if you like, so that you can engage with scholars around the themes that you're interested in, without it counting towards a degree or without it counting towards some sort of assessment of you. So it's a kind of informal assessment, but it also, very importantly, allows you to build networks, because you may reach out to people that you have never met around a theme, and they then become part of the group of people that you interact with as you go through your career, assuming you maintain those similar interests later in your career.
The first one was a real sort of baptism by fire. It was an excellent crash course in assembling the contributions, publishing, the whole process of publishing, really, from editing through to dealing with permissions for images, proofreaders, reviewers, copy editors.
And then, of course, you've got to get it all ready. We were typesetting it and everything ourselves in those days as well, using templates, which was really quite tricky, and then finding the printers and so on. So all those sorts of things took a long time. And with that particular volume, the Bones one, it actually took a very, very long time to publish because, due to all sorts of issues later on, I think, with trying to find somebody to print it. Which was by the time I'd left Cambridge. So, I think one thing I did learn was that an edited volume from start to finish can take years to complete, and is a lot of stress and hard work, but definitely worth it in the end.
There was a lot of joint thinking and contribution that went into that. So I wouldn't say that was my volume. I would say that belonged to all of us. And it was very much that kind of group effort that brought it together.
I really felt part of a community of archaeologists, whether we were informally in classics or in archaeology. So I think that community was already there. And I think it was that community really that brought ARC into being, because I edited one of the third issues. So it was only in its third year of existence, and I had already started. I had been a PhD student for 2 or 3 years by the time I edited it. So I do feel that there was something of a community, and there was a sort of spin-off from ARC, SPARC as we called it, which is Society for Promotion of Archaeological Research in Cambridge, and we sponsored talks, not surprisingly, in the pub regularly to try and sort of promote debate at that sort of level of that wasn't the sort of high level of formal seminars and lectures and so on, but more informal debate, bringing some important speakers, as we felt, to an informal setting to talk primarily with students and early career researchers.
Well, hopefully you never stop trying to improve the way that you're presenting your work. So yes, I would always encourage people to get involved with this sort of thing, because I think it really was a great help to me. And I think also it helped get me noticed when I was applying for jobs later on. I mean, I was unsuccessful with a number of applications, as I'm sure a lot of people are, but I do know, I think that having been an editor of ARC and having published a couple of edited volumes quite early on in my career, I think did help me get noticed at York. So that's all positive. And hopefully a lot of other people will see the same benefits as well.
To have, this again is that, to have that opportunity for self-expression, that's a very valuable thing. And to have that relationship with your peers where you do read each other's work and you do get feedback from it. And that can be quite robust. And to engage in that process of self-criticality is really, really useful. When you do go to publish in other journals, you'll have to face the reviewer. So understanding how a review process works, even amongst yourselves, is very, very useful. Mm-hmm. So when somebody reads your work, what do they see in it? How do they respond to it? And having those conversations around it in that kind of venue can be incredibly helpful.
So what advice would I give to someone considering working for ARC now?
take the opportunity with both hands and try to get as much out of it as possible. Publishing, I know, has changed a lot in the last 20 years, and I can imagine that the experience of ARC today is a little different with the sort of digital resources that you have at your disposal that we didn't have 20 years ago. God, that makes me sound really old, doesn't it? As if we're sort of dealing with the Gutenberg press or something. But I can imagine that any skills that you pick up in the process today relating to digital publishing, relating maybe to open access, relating to dealing with publishers, and maybe making contacts within that editorial network, as well as with contributors that you bring into the volumes. I think that's incredibly important and a rare opportunity. It maybe is something that happens elsewhere at the postdoctoral stage after your PhD, because I can think of a few institutions where PhD students do not have the opportunity to literally sort of take an entire volume and see it from conception to production. But I would say that as a result, I would encourage everyone to be involved as much as possible. Really, it was a fabulous experience. I said hectic at the beginning, but I think that is also something that is good for dealing with and learning how to deal with. Because if you follow the research pathway, the academic pathway, it continues to be hectic. So I think it's good practice for later life.
Well, one thing I would say is get absolutely on top of the current digital technology. Paper is definitely a thing of the past, and even more so. So it's going to stand you in good stead into the future. But also be bold. If you're interested in the topic, approach those people that you're aware of to contribute, who you think would make the best contribution, even if they're the most senior scholar around, because it will enrich the volume, and it'll also help you build networks with those kinds of people.
So I think it taught us a bit about working together. It taught us about rigor. It taught us about how you could change a discipline. And also, I would say to students today that many of the volumes of ARC, not just mine, but many of them broke absolutely new ground. They were things which were completely new thinking. And Cambridge was that place where new came from. And so that ability to think about what are the lacunae, the gaps in your discipline, and to say, hey, we young things, we can think about that. We can try to address those things. What do we see as the way that archaeology should go? And to set that direction for the discipline. I would very much encourage you to think about the ways you want our discipline to go. You're the ones who will have to take it forward. So think about that agenda setting. Think what it is we should be doing as a profession. Where should we be pushing hard? Where do we need to create intellectual inquiry? And use it as an opportunity for that. If there's an audience, the audience is still there, and use it to hone your skills in that venue.
No, I'm really pleased that it's lasted 40 years. I think it's a fantastic achievement, and you should be very proud that it's kept on going and that you're keeping that alive. I think in a way it doesn't surprise me, because it is a really good thing, and I would hope that every year there will be PhD students who want to take it on and carry it forward and can see the benefits of that. I think there was always some worry that perhaps some years there were more people who were interested than others. You never got a huge amount of people. We never had huge committees. I don't know what it's like now, but there's always enough people to make it last, I think.
The long history of success of the ARC wouldn't be possible without the list of subscribers, contributors, and scholars interested in our activities. So, if you want to contribute to make our life much longer, then please check our website and our social media channels. Thank you for joining us for this celebration, and we hope to see you soon.